For more than 10 years, my husband Norm and I served the Lord with the Cambodian Refugee Church in France, in Paris. We had a humble little church. It wasn't fancy at all. But every week, about 300 people would come. They could never get back to the place where they were staying in time for lunch, so we just began having lunch at the church, and we all ate together and had fellowship with each other. Every month I would make a big birthday cake for any children who had their birthday during that month. It's a wonderful memory. Well, one Saturday, one of the girls and one of the guys was being engaged. And so they had the traditional engagement ceremony at her apartment. They had to change a lot of things because living in France was not like living in Cambodia. But what they did was they moved all the furniture out of the main room, and they put down mats, and the visitors sat on the mats on the floor. And we waited. The groom, the fiance, the guy was there, and he was sitting there waiting for his bride-to-be to come. After a little while, as we all waited, her attendants brought her in. My, she was beautiful. She was the fiancée. She was the one that was going to be engaged that day. They had made her as beautiful as she could be. She had on a lovely green silk dress trimmed with silver, and her hair was just as pretty as it could be, and she had beautiful makeup on. She was a lovely, lovely looking young lady. As I saw her come in and sit down beside her husband-to-be, this thought came to me, and I know it was an encounter with Jesus. I know it was the Lord who spoke to my heart. Because I said to Norm, you know, we should be beautiful like that for Jesus. I wasn't talking about beauty on the outside, but inner beauty. We should be beautiful for Jesus now, because this is our situation now. It's as if we're engaged to Jesus. Huh? One day we will go to the marriage supper of the Lamb. One day we will go and meet our beloved. Now we don't even see him, but we're engaged to him. One day we will be with him forever. So that was a beautiful thought for me to think of as I looked at that couple becoming engaged. But that was not the end of the encounter, because the very next day was Sunday, and it was a rare day when Norman didn't have to preach anywhere. We had a day off. And there was a French church that we had heard about that we thought we would really like to go to. And so we took the opportunity to go to that church on Sunday morning and participate in the singing and listen to the sermon. To start off with, we sang my very favorite French worship chorus, Jésus mon bien-aimé, tout mon trésor. And I sang it with my heart. Jesus is my beloved. He is my treasure. He's given me life. And with all my heart, I worship and adore you. We sang that song over and over again as a love song to Jesus. And then, could you believe it? The pastor got up and preached a sermon, and the subject was, we are engaged to Jesus. I have never in my life, neither before that sermon nor after, ever heard anybody preach on the subject, you're engaged to Jesus. But that timing was perfect. First he told me on Saturday, we need to be beautiful like that for Jesus, because that's our situation. We're now engaged to Jesus. And then the very next day, to have it explained, what does that really mean? What a wonderful thing for me to hear. Because, you know, we were living there in France, and it seemed like I was always in a hurry. I was always wanting to do something fast. I remember one time walking to the street as I couldn't drive a car. I had to take public transportation, and I was walking quickly to get the bus, and I was asking the Lord actually to speed me on my way, because I always hurry up and get it done. But as I reflected then on what is it like to be engaged? Because when you're engaged, when a couple is engaged to each other, a young lady and a young man, that's really the most tender part of their life. They are not going to look at each other and say, I wish you would change. They're not going to look at each other and say, you know, I'm not very happy with the way you are. I wish you wouldn't. I wish you would. Instead, they're looking at each other and they're sort of feeling like, how could I be so lucky to have you? They love each other and they praise each other, and they wait with great anticipation for the day they can really be together. And so the Lord began to explain to me that That's our situation. Jesus is not running after me with a stick telling me to do more or to be better. He's telling me that he loves me very, very much during this tender time as we wait for the day when we will be united and we will be there at the marriage supper of the Lamb. And what a day that will be when we are finally together forever and ever.